you are in more high stakes, more high pressured circumstances, but you just wish that someone would tell you what to avoid, what you should think about doing, and what you should not do. This is the perfect video for you. We're going to talk about your high stakes communication challenges. This is a Q&A. Therefore, if you're watching this video live or if you're watching this video as a replay, you're welcome to put in any questions that you have about some of the challenges you're facing right now. I want to encourage you to watch this video until the end because I'm going to share with you some of the most common challenges that I have seen a lot of my clients struggle with and a lot of leaders struggle with in general as it relates to communicating in very high stakes, high pressure situations. This video is a video where I am talking to you as a friend. I do not have all of the talking points outlined that I usually share at the very beginning to give you some insight, which is the reason why you want to definitely stay tuned to this video in the end and not miss anything I'm going to share with you today. I'm going to highlight as much as I can, but there may be aspects of being able to navigate these challenges as it relates to communicating under pressure that I will not be able to go over, which is the reason why you subscribe to the channel to learn as much as you can. If you are new to me, welcome, welcome. And if you're one of my absolutely amazing subscribers, welcome back, friend. This channel heavily focuses in on advanced communication skills and strategies that will help you to communicate more confidently and concisely under pressure. If you happen to be in a leadership role, I encourage you to take some time, look at a couple of my playlists here on my channel page, and get some really solid information in terms of fundamentals that you need to communicate under pressure. So let's talk about it. As I mentioned, these are just going to go in order that come to my mind today in terms of the challenges I've seen people do and people struggle with when it comes to being able to have the ability to navigate high stakes situations specifically. I do also want to mention to you that this is a Q&A, and I talk about this a lot on my channel. Please, everyone, and I know this is going to be probably the weirdest thing you've heard, but if you have a professional situation going on right now, please come to me with the hard things, the very hard and challenging situations. If you don't feel comfortable talking about them live on YouTube, then you're always more than welcome to send me a message on any social media platform that I have accounts on. They're all listed in the description below. All right, I want to say hello to, I want to say Shishla. I want to say Celia. I know I said that wrong, and I'm so sorry. I hope you're doing well today. Welcome, welcome. Let me know what part of the big, beautiful world you all are joining from today. And what challenges are you dealing with professionally right now? Come to me with the hard situations, the situations that you just don't want to talk to people about. This is the best place for you to be at on YouTube. This is Friday night. This is question and answer. I have time to help you navigate whatever challenging situation you have as a woman in leadership, as a man in leadership, or someone that's thinking about leadership. Put them in the comments below. Let's have a conversation today. Let me help you as best I can to navigate some of these challenges coming up. Lucia Henriquez 7339. Hello, how you doing today, Lucia? Lucia says you're really pretty. Well, thank you. Danny Parra. Hello, Danny. I believe you've been on the channel before. I believe so. Your name looks familiar. Hope you're doing well and welcome, welcome. Let me know what challenges you all are facing professionally in your possibly in your leadership roles, in your positions, anything professional. I'm here to talk about today. Now, while we're waiting for responses to come in, I'm going to share with you the most common challenges that people make when they are in high stakes communication or high stakes or high pressure situations. Now, before I even go into the challenges, let me share with you that if you can master how you communicate under pressure, it is one of the skills that will completely change your life. And I'm not saying that because I'm a high stakes communication strategist or I've been in these situations and I'm an executive coach and consultant that specializes in high stakes communication. But I have seen how so many people have been able to truly change their lives when they are able to communicate under pressure. I have had people that I know, clients that I've worked with, been able to negotiate multiple six-figure salaries, bonuses, salary increases, and etc., all by being able to communicate under pressure. So if you are struggling with something professionally and you have some challenges going on, feel free to talk to me about it. I'm here to support you any way that I can. Put it in the comments below. You know we're going to have a good conversation about this to get you where you need to be. Now, as I mentioned, these are challenges I'm thinking of off the top of my head. I do not have something outlined in terms of the order I'm going into, which is the reason why you definitely want to watch this video until the end. Now, one of the main challenges as I'm going through this that I see most often, and thank you for the heart emojis, friends, that people really do struggle with as it relates to being in those very high stakes communication scenarios, is that they are at the point where they have to over explain. Now, let me know if you have ever been in a situation where you felt like you needed to over explain. You needed to tell them everything that was going on. You have to explain everything. How many of you have over explained? Or maybe you ramble when you're in conversations at work, in your businesses, with your constituents, with your leadership teams, etc. Let me know in the comments below, because this is something that a lot of people tend to struggle with quite a bit. So I'm going to share with you why people struggle with over explaining and rambling in high stakes situations. But let me go to the chat first. Junior RSA official, hello, welcome Junior. How you doing today? Junior says, Jesus Christ loves you. He died for your sins. Thank you, and absolutely. All right, thank you for the heart emojis, friends. The reason why, if you really want to know why, if you've ever rambled and if you've ever felt like you were at a place where you just kept rambling, you kept talking, this is the reason why you're doing it, okay? There's two, but I'm going to go into them really quickly. James Freeman 892. Hello, James. How you doing today? Welcome, welcome. Let me know where you all are joining from in the big, beautiful world today, and let me know what challenges you are facing right now in your leadership roles or in your professional roles. Come to me with the hard things, the hard situations. If you have something easy, I can handle that, of course. But the hard situations are really my expertise. Let me know what your challenges are and what you're struggling with. The reason why people tend to, thank you for the heart emojis, friends. The reason why people tend to struggle with rambling and over explaining is because they have not mastered one of the three aspects of communication that most people in the world are struggling with. I talk about them a lot on the channel, but I'm going to highlight them right now just so that you know, especially for those of you who are new to the channel. Most people in the world struggle with three aspects of communication. There's a lot more, but I narrow it down to three just to get us started. One, they struggle with making eye contact with individuals because eye contact feels what? Awkward. It feels awkward, feels uncomfortable. Number two, people tend to struggle with silence. And that is the reason why people tend to ramble. We're going to dive into that a little bit more. And number three is facial expressions. People typically struggle with these three: eye contact, facial expressions, and silence in a conversation. Therefore, if you can start mastering those three aspects of communication, I guarantee you it will give you an unfair competitive advantage over everybody else in terms of how you communicate. And if you want to learn really how to do this, then this is why you subscribe to this channel. This is the only, yes, I did say the only channel on YouTube that talks about high stakes, high pressure communication strategies in a live setting that has over 1,000 videos on it. This is the best channel for you to be at if you want to learn more about being that person that has that unfair competitive advantage over everybody else. Now, rambling. The reason why people ramble is because they are not comfortable with silence. How many of you have ever been in a situation where you rambled? Put in the comments below. Let's talk about it. We've all been there at times in our life. But typically, the reason why people feel like they have to over-explain comes down to, I would say, two reasons. One of the reasons why people feel like they have to over-explain or ramble a lot when they are talking in a professional setting is they want the person to know more about them. They want the person to understand where they're coming from, or they want to feel heard. And most of us as humans, we want to feel heard. We want to feel like people understand what we are going through and our challenges that we're facing. And there's nothing wrong with explaining that. But there comes a point when you're saying a bit too much. And I'm going to tie that into one of the other parts of what we're going to talk about today, specifically in a moment. But usually people are not comfortable with silence. When someone is silent in a conversation, it creates tension. It creates a dead space that sometimes people feel very, very, very uncomfortable with. They don't know what to do. Therefore, they start talking to fill up the space. And when they start talking to fill up the space, they start over explaining, or they start rambling because they are simply not comfortable with silence. This is the reason why silence, if you can master this skill, is something that will completely change your life. Now, if you are at a place in your journey where you are very serious about elevating how you are communicating as a leader, then you're welcome to reach out to me at exciteexcellence.org, and I would be more than happy to partner with you to help you be able to overcome this. That's one reason. Another reason why people tend to over explain is not only are they uncomfortable with silence, they also are maybe a bit nervous. Sometimes people are just nervous talking to other people. They don't really know what to say or how to say it, and the only thing they know to say is to say something and to continue talking. So there's those two reasons. People want to be heard, and then people sometimes struggle with silence. Of course, that goes together. And then the third is someone may just simply be nervous. If you found yourself in any one of those situations, it's okay. You can learn how to unlearn those behaviors by watching the content here on my channel, and work with me directly if you're really serious about making some changes in your life. Now, another struggle, or challenge, I would say rather, that I have seen a lot of people make as it relates to being able to communicate in those very high stakes, high pressure situations, is that they do not have a strategy in place. Now, let me explain. When I mean strategy, I mean strategy. And one of the most common challenges I see that people make in these very high stakes communication type of exchanges is they don't have a plan in terms of how am I supposed to respond in these type of situations. For example, when you know you're going into a conversation that may potentially turn a bit more contentious, or there may be some debate back and forth with this conversation, there are ways for you to plan for this conversation in advance so that when you are in the middle of the room or online or in front of the person when you're having that conversation with them, that it comes across as you are being the person that is calm about it. You're not frustrated. You're not showing too much emotions. You're able to navigate this very high stakes, high pressure type of situations. But most people, even though they're in leadership roles, even though they know what a conversation is going to be about, they do not take a few moments before their meeting to think about specifically what it is that they need to say and what potentially could come up as confrontation or challenges or debates before they go into meetings. And then when they go into the meetings, they're like, whoa, caught off guard because someone asked them a question they wasn't expecting. Now, you can still be asked a question that you were not expecting, even if you prepared for your meeting in advance. But to really master that, you definitely want to take a look at a couple of my videos that talk about managing your emotions under pressure, how to buy yourself time, and etc. I'm not going to go into that detail in this live, but take a look at my playlist that I have here. There are 3 playlists at the moment, but they will absolutely help you be able to navigate these challenging situations for sure. So I mentioned to you about having a plan. So that comes down to your strategy. How do you want to be perceived as leader? Let me know in the comments below. Do you want to be perceived as the leader who is very charismatic? Do you want to be perceived as a leader that is very stoic? Do you want to be perceived as a leader who is a mix of both? Put in the comments below. Let's talk about it. But knowing what you want to be perceived as, or how rather you want to be perceived as, is very, 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 very important in terms of how you communicate in those very high stakes, high pressure type of situations. One of the reasons why people tend to struggle with this is because they don't take the time to plan. Therefore, they don't take the time to develop a strategy. When I mean develop a strategy, it's important for you to think about what it is specifically that are aspects of your life or aspects of your workplace or conversations you've had that you do not believe are relevant for a specific discussion. Now, oftentimes I talk about knowing your triggers, but I'm not referring to knowing your triggers specifically here, meaning that there's certain situations in your life or words or facial expressions that have had some type of negative connotation to them in your life in the past, And when they come up in that conversation, you may be caught off guard because you know if you see it, you just don't know how to respond. That's what I mean about knowing your triggers. But this specifically relates to strategy. There's some aspects of conversations that you have with other people that you simply do not need to share. Now, for instance, if you know you are going through something personally right now, and you're in a workplace setting or you're managing your business or whatever the case may be, there may be aspects of your personal life that you just need to be quiet about. And you don't necessarily need to share it with everybody. A lot of people struggle with this because when they start rambling and they're not comfortable with silence, they start just talking, right? Start talking. And then their mind thinks of whatever they can say, whatever we can say to just continue to keep talking. So there is no dead space in this conversation. There's no silence. Just keep talking, keep talking, keep talking. And then they overshare and they say things that can be used as leverage against them in the future. Now, there comes a time and place when you have those personal conversations with people that you trust, but in a workplace setting or in a business setting, it's very important to be able to think about exactly what it is that you want to share about your specific situation and what it is that you don't want to share about your specific situation. This is how you develop a strategy to navigate more high stakes, more high pressure situations. Now, I want to know from those of you watching the live right now or watching the replay, have you ever had a time where you felt like you overshared just a little too much and regretted it afterwards? Put in the comments below. This happens often, and this is one of the major challenges that comes up when people are trying to navigate high stakes situations, is that they overshare and they share a bit too much about themselves, but they do not prepare a strategy in advance to help them do that. Now, you might be saying, thank you for the heart emojis, friends. You may be saying, well, how do I develop a strategy? Is it really that important for me to develop a strategy? Yes, it is very important for you to develop a strategy. One of the services that I offer is called an executive strategy session, and it is a very big blueprint, overall big picture in terms of where you're going in your career as a professional, as a woman in leadership. Where are you trying to go and what are you trying to do and accomplish? It's so important to have a strategy. I just had multiple calls today myself personally with different disciplines to come up with a strategy for myself. Many of you know I've had a lot going on this past year personally. You don't know the details just yet, but when I'm at the point I can share with them, I will. But I have a lot of strategy that I'm putting together for myself and my household. And the same goes for your life too. You have to be able to find and identify people that understand you and understand what you're trying to do, that can partner with you to help develop a strategy. Now, the strategy session, executive strategy session that I offer is something that is very transformative. It will give you the blueprint. It will give you whatever guidance you need to tackle that big next hurdle that you need to go over. If you're at a point where you really need some help and you know you cannot continue to function the way you have been, either the way you communicate, the way you lead, or the next steps in your career, reach out to me at excellence.org and don't wait. Don't wait. Waiting will not cause the situation to be any better. Waiting will continue to cause the situation to be worse. So don't wait. All right, James Freeman says, you are very beautiful. Well, thank you, James. I appreciate that. Now, we talked about a couple of things. I've mentioned a few strategies or a few challenges I've seen so far. I'm going to just keep going just for a bit more as it relates to other strategies or other challenges, rather, that people struggle with. But as I mentioned in the beginning, if you have any professional challenges, any conversations, discussions, challenges, issues, whatever the case may be, that you are navigating and you wish you had somebody to help you strategize and talk about it, put it in the comments below. I'm here for you. I want to support you in the way that I can. I appreciate the heart emojis, friends. I really want to help you. So come to me with the really hard things. If you have something and you thought about it and you want to add it into the comments or contact me directly on any other social media platform, I spend a bit more time on Instagram and LinkedIn for sure. And then of course, YouTube is my home. I'm here at least 8 times a week live with you all. But let me know where I can help you. And thank you for the heart emojis, friends. Another aspect of high stakes communication that I see a lot of people struggle with has to do with developing their executive presence. Now, how many of you believe executive presence is real? How many of you believe executive presence is a myth? I'm curious. Let me know what you think in the comments below. The reason why I say executive presence is a challenge in high stakes communication is because the way you communicate yourself to the entire room that's watching truly does play a factor into how you're going to be received and how perhaps your proposal, your project, your initiatives, or whatever it is you're working on is perceived by other people. Now, how do you develop an executive presence? I have an entire playlist that's dedicated to executive presence. So you're welcome to take a look at it. It is called Executive Presence Mastery. But being able to communicate and showcase yourself as someone that remains calm under pressure, that has a presence about them that makes people want to be inspired, that makes people want to work with them, and etc., is very important. But most of the time, leaders do struggle with this. They don't know how to develop it or what to do, and etc. And that's the reason why I put that as one of the challenges that I can think of off the top of my head. Okay, James Freeman says, have a blessed night. Well, thank you, James. I appreciate that. Another aspect or challenge that I see a lot of people struggle with as it relates to high stakes communication is not being able to listen intently or listen actively. Why do I say this? Because when you're in those very high stakes situations, a lot of times it's hard. It's very, very hard. It's a very challenging situation. And sometimes our emotions get into play. Sometimes our own internal biases that we have about a situation or a person will start to factor into our decision making. And whatever is being said to us is not being actually listened to by us. Meaning that you can go into a conversation that you know is going to be a bit more challenging and find yourself in a situation where you are listening to the person, but you're really not listening to what they're actually saying. And when you are not listening, you are not being receptive to what may perhaps be going on in reality, because you may be very emotional about the topic. You may be at a point where you are just simply frustrated with it, and you are not at the point where you want to hear anything else that anyone has to say. Many people struggle with this in high stakes communication because they are not listening. I cannot tell you how many times when I've interacted with my clients and just other leaders over the past 20 years, I've been in senior executive roles where I've seen people really struggle with listening. They have a hard time listening to what's actually being said because they have their own agenda in their mind that's going on. And this is the reason why people struggle in high stakes conversations, for that reason, because they're not listening to what's being said. Sometimes if you actually listen, you may be able to find a common ground or a area that is truly a concern or an issue that you can provide a solution to. But if you're not listening, how can you do that? You're going to stay closed-minded and you're not going to be able to move forward. Now, we've talked about a lot so far. I do want to give you one more aspect of why people struggle with high stakes communication. And one of the challenges that I see a lot of people navigate in these type of circumstances when they come up, and this will be the last one I share unless there's any questions you all have, let me know. But many times people struggle or have challenges with high stakes communication because they are not trained to do it. Now, when you are trained, many of us are highly educated individuals. We are in leadership roles. We're managing businesses. We're managing churches. We are managing constituents. We are managing large organizations, multi-million dollar, billion-dollar budgets. But sometimes you're just simply not trained to be able to communicate under pressure. And when you can learn how to communicate under pressure, it will help you out tremendously. One of the things that I will share with you that most of the time happens often, I'll have to probably go off here in just a moment, but what happens most of the time is that people, they know how to communicate as leaders, but they find themselves when the situation goes under pressure that everything changes and it starts to become more complicated. I hope this gives you some insight. I'm going to run and check and see what's going on with my kids and why they are upset and screaming. But I hope this gives you something to think about. And if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. And I'll see you all in the next video.